for being here. So, all right. So if you're new here, welcome. Thanks for joining. I'm Amy, and I have multitude of background of different kind of stuff. So mostly where I'm coming from is anthropological kind of philosophy around the great mothers. This started years ago when somebody challenged me and asked me what did I think it meant before 2012 and the world is going to end as we know it, is what the quote is. It's not the world is going to end. It's the world's going to end as we know it. And so I thought to myself, well, what is the world? And I was like, the world is very patriarchal. So it must mean that women will be rising, that the way that the shift would change was that women, females, the first primordial being, would rise and have authority and have a position that would shift the world eventually. So that was somewhat of the beginnings. So welcome. And what I share is about goddesses and females, women of renown, women of mythology, women of modern era, sibyls, prophetesses, Zunis, forgive that mispronunciation, Zemis, Zemis, and working on also like breaking down words and recognizing the spell and seeing how everything is the great mothers, comes from the great mothers, and hence like the way the world is. And so to also decenter and recenter the divine feminine or women in general, great mothers, that's what this channel is about. Okay? So if you haven't seen it, my last video, I did a description about the Tongva people and some of their history, herstory. See, that's another thing I'm trying to work on. Herstory of one of their, about the peoples, and then also was educated to one of their chieftesses, medicine women, who led a rebellion, her name, and about how she was depicted, and the amount of intense authority and power and influence of the great mothers. Okay, so then I started reading about motherhood, and then just kidding, I'm not kidding. And then I saw a video that Mama T promoted about menstrual blood. So I want to finish, and so from watching that video, it got me inspired, and I of course grabbed the book that was influenced by Cassandra Floyd, which I know some of you might already follow her, and that's where I learned about this book, is from watching her, and then I'm going to help, spread the word. If you haven't seen it already, they're on Friday, I can't remember what time, I think it's 5 p.m. Mama T and Cassandra are going to do a video together, so that's exciting. Okay, with that said, the reason why I mentioned that is because of the power of the mothers. The power of the mothers, the power of, if you're still having your moon cycles, the power of your moon cycle. I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I do know about it already from modern magic. So this is interesting because recently it's been scientifically proven that moon cycle menses can help with, they'll use the actual like stem cells from the blood, and it helps people heal from certain things. Now, before this scientific proof, I had learned years ago that if you take your moon cycle and you put it in some water and you then feed it to you water your plants with it, that the plants will recognize the structure and help. They will then structure themselves in a way that when you eat it, it's like your body recognizes the DNA in the plant, which is part of your DNA. And then also using it as protection, like around the house. And I think that's it. That's mostly what I learned about it before, specifically like giving it to the plants and to the land. And so there is a whole chapter in here about that. I don't know what they're going to talk about, so I don't want to usurp that, but I am going to finish reading about motherhood and trying to pick up where I left off. So that's what today is going to be about. Not so much specifically goddesses, but also just the power and the reverence outside of these cultures that recognize the power of women and their motherhood. And the whole reason why I started going down this path is because there has been some remembrance of sea stars and sibyls that say that males were created completely not even here on Earth. That's not necessarily my personal theory or remembrance. However, when I was reading out of this book about the Matrika Divas, they mention in there that in the tantric belief that they feel that males come from a completely different creation. So I wanted to find that. So it said see motherhood. So here we are. And so where I had left off is that in Europe, the great goddess was thought the sole omnipotent deity. Fatherhood was not incorporated into religious thinking because in clan life, it was a very frail bond, even if recognized. Scholars know that in the beginning, the goddess everywhere attended. The goddess everywhere attended, or at least was prominent over the male god, the god. It has been affirmed that in all countries from the Euphrates to the Adriatic, the chief divinity was first in woman form. Okay? So, recent researchers into the history of the family render it the highest degree, being a mother, closest kinship to God, and his worshippers, but, here we go, okay? And then it says, of which traces are found all over the Semitic area, was originally conceived as fatherhood. It was the mother's, not the father's blood, which formed the original bond of kinship among the Semites, as among other early people, and in this stage of society. If the tribal deity was thought of as the parent of the stock, a goddess, not a god, would necessarily have been the object of worship. Okay. And then it says, modern male scholars often tried to conceal or deny the evidence of ancient matriarchate. I think that's how you say that. Let me find out how to say that real quick. Matriarchate. Matriarchat. I feel like, anyhow, which is basically a matriarchal society. Males denied it, of course, modern males, male scholars. Whenever possible, some automatically converted references of the Great Mother into the word God. For example, in the Bible, as was done in translating the Bible. Even so, responsible a scholar as Cumat, translating Alpheus' description of the Syrian goddess as omnipotence, all-powerful, all-producing, glossed the description as conception of the absolute and limiting authority of God over the earth. And so we've seen this before. We've heard the story over and over, especially when it comes to the deities. Okay, so I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna read, and I'll share. Okay. Oh, an orb just went by. Did you see it? I don't know if I clicked on soon enough. Anyhow, so in Frankfurt, it is said that the goddess was the supreme in Mesopotamia because the source of all life is seen in the female. In Egypt, she was the being eternal and infinite. Have I already read this? I did. Okay, so I hope I didn't. If you listen to that again, thank you. Okay, because I mentioned before the great Kali Ma. She wore a necklace of skulls, the Sanskrit mantra. In the Middle East, the many goddesses in Egypt, okay? And then, let's see. Ancient beliefs, okay, here we go. Okay. Egyptians revered the goddess as a measure of time. We've talked about that before, how mother, we talk about like meter, metrics, all come from mother, okay? Measurement, as well as production. Okay. Mistress of the house of books, mistress of the house of artifacts or architects. Mothers are the architects, original architectures. As foundress of the science of architecture, she was named Seshat, Lady of the Builder's Measure. She built the abode of a king in the next world, a pyramid. She also created the goddess calf, Horus, familiar in the Bible as the idol worshipped by Aaron and the Israelites. Ancient beliefs linking motherhood with superior intelligence, reasoning power, and magical knowledge made it hard for men to oppose the matriarch, even when they discovered paternity and personified it in gods. Fathers' claim to children's respect seemed relatively trivial. I feel like I read all this already, or is it just a repeating story? To every cow belongs her calf. The laws of Mantu stated that a spiritual teacher exceeds a worldly teacher 10 times. A father exceeds a spiritual teacher 100 times, but a mother exceeds 1,000 times a father's claim to honor on the part of a child and its educator. There may have been a real biological advantage underlying ancient views of the female's superior intelligence. As mothers or potential mothers, female mammals have more need of naturally responsive alertness than males. Girls, more mature skills enable them to attend to stimuli, especially from other people, more swiftly and accurately than boys. Girls are better at analyzing and anticipating environmental demands. In addition, they have greater verbal faculty. I've talked about this before as well. These are things that society, through its systems and programming, utilize from the feminine. Everything comes from her. And so if you can create a system that attacks these innate abilities of the divine woman, female, then the control and kind of like the forgetting of who she is can happen. Okay, I wanted to find the part about a different creation. Let's see. I'm just going to keep reading because it makes more sense. The perceptual, cognitive, and verbal skills which, for unknown reasons, are more characteristic in girls, enable them to analyze and anticipate adult demands. As a modern woman said, after the birth of children, that enormous thing you do, everything else seems kind of a breeze. But so many of us lock the doors of the mind, never bother to penetrate below the surface of that bottomless sea of resources that may be nature's gift to women. Interesting. For a long time, men feared to oppose women because they were convinced women were more closely allied with forces of nature. West African tribesmen testified that women were more powerful than men, for to them alone the mysteries of the gods and of secret things were known. Women founded the magical Igbo society, but after men learned the secret rites, they kept women from participating anymore. In Queensland also, once men learned magic, they forbade women to practice on the ground that women had too much natural aptitude for it. So this is another thing. I feel like it answers how we got here. The males, with the information, were then like, no, because we're better at it than them, and we don't need... Mother tells us what to do. We then share it with them. Anyhow. In Northern Europe, the Vanir or elder gods led by Mother Earth and the goddess Freya were overthrown by new patriarchal deities from Asia, like who was led by Father Odin. In the Aegean, followers of Zeus fought the pre-Hellenistic worshippers of Mother Rhea or Hera, and Babylon worshippers of Marduk rebelled against the primordial Mother Tiamat, whose own son did her in. And we visited that because it looks like it was actually her nephew. However, if we look at how indigenous folks speak, everyone's aunt and uncle also, right? So, okay. Cousins, or we're all cousins. Okay. Then it says also to overthrow her world creating function, right? We talked about that. Like, he then takes responsibility for creating the world when no, it was Mother Tiamat. In Mexico, the legendary leader of the Aztecs overthrew his sister, Melina Chuxul, former ruler of men and beasts, afterward described as a bad witch. In Australia, that's interesting. We'll talk about Queensland. Okay. The goddess named Marm, Mother, was demonized by men who resented the advantages she bestowed on women. She made women in her own image and gave them magic fruit, offspring, that she denied to men. In Malekula, men frankly admitted that their religious rights were stolen from the women who invented them but ceased to practice them. You want to stop practicing them? This is also, I think, the part of marriage why pairing a female with a male in the human realm on a spiritual and like sociological level literally separates her from this continuous line of magic, of intuitive discovery, because she's busy all the time focused on him. It's just a theory, but I don't think it's just a theory. I think there's some backing to that, but I think that might lead into it. Okay, then let's see here. Terra del Fuegian men said women used to rule the world by witchcraft, and all religious mysteries belong to their goddess, the moon. The men adopted the cult. This is where I talk about the moon. I need to do a video on that. I really do. Video on the moon cycles. Okay. And men adopted the cult of the sun god, and under this leadership, they unalived all the adult women of the tribe, leaving only immature girls not yet initiated. Let me just talk about that with the peoples of the Americas. Oh my gosh. Okay. Affirming that they had to undo the matriarch. They had to undo the matriarchal ways of all the peoples all around the world. It's the only way they could succeed. And I also think that was the whole pursuit of dragons. Because again, I think those were ours. And maybe even us in our magical and our true set arenda, or our true magical powers. I know how this sounds, but look, we have so much information coming out and in remembrance of who we were, who we are, and what we're capable of. Like, we are everything. The divine great mothers are everything. Everything comes from them. Everything comes from them. Everything. Is that architecture? I feel like that's a little proof to my Tartarian theory that the great mothers were able to synchronize their voices. Oh my gosh, I was thinking about it. If you put some of the great mothers, like opera sounding voices, in one of those hallways that has that acoustics, and other, like a bunch of mothers, a bunch of sea stars, a bunch of daughters, great daughters, all sounding. Are you kidding me? I can only, and then the bells that were there, the bells probably rang as a response to the sound. And then you get the bells and you get the sound. Are you kidding me? I think you could move and create things all over the planet. Absolutely. Move marble, create. The sounds alone would create the cymatics. And then all the mothers would need to do is just imagine the glass pieces and how they would fit. Knowing that the sounds and the cymatics would just make it happen. I mean, just saying. Okay. A transparently mendacious Atamul legend said women invented sacred objects and secrets of magic, then gave these things to men and asked the men to gosh. They're saying that they gave these to the men, and then they themselves asked the men to take them from the world so that no woman would have the secrets anymore. Many similar examples show that the defeat of the matriarch was mythologized as a violent attack of men upon women. Such myths of leadership forcibly wrestled from women occur throughout the world and cannot be overlooked. As Engels noted, the overthrow of the mother's right was the world historical downfall of the female gender. Okay, in some ways it may have meant the downfall of humanity because of the peaceful social order to a hierarchical structure established and maintained. In some ways it may have been the downfall of humanity, because now what we see is very, not awesome, because patriarchal societies instead of insisted on pecking orders, whereas matriarchal ones tended to be more egalitarian. Okay. So, again, I want to try to find that part where it's that males came from somewhere else. No, I have to read this part. Oh my gosh. Okay. The same spirit of affirmation has been found in matriarchal or semi-matriarchal societies of the recent past. American Indians who worshipped the female principle and were ruled by tribal chiefs elected by the real leaders called female governesses surprised Christian missionaries with their behavior more Christian than that of pale men. A missionary said, "What is extremely surprising in men whose external appearance is wholly barbarous," oh my goddess, "is to see them treat one another with a gentleness and consideration which one does not find among common people in the most civilized countries." Indian women were known as the life of the nation, the mistress of the soil. In answer to a pale questioner who couldn't understand the Indian reverence for women, one Indian man said, "Of course the men follow the wishes of the women. They are our mothers." And then I don't like these words, but even aggressive perceptions of peoples like the Dobu Islanders regarded motherhood as the only possible antidote to warfare. So through mothers and mothers' kinships, they were able to work things out. And they would call that kinship mother's milk. And, okay, children grew up without harsh punishment, expecting kindness from others as a matter of course. That was normal. Societies, we know how societies dominated by men look like because we live in it today. This is interesting. Psychologists agree, and I'm going to revert to another book in a moment here, but psychologists agree that the images of mother and father affect the psyche in different ways. Feelings of connectedness were more closely associated with the mother, feelings of disassociation or alienation with the father. In spiritual terms, outer and inner worlds of nature and the self were not separated under a matriarchal order, whereas patriarchy insisted on their absolute severance. We can see this. They're like patriarchy seems to look anti-nature. Now, I don't know if it's going to talk about this, but in the book, The Great Cosmic Mother, there is a quote that is said to help people heal. And that saying is, Mommy and I are one. And it said that people who saw it subconsciously, so even if they weren't consciously saying Mommy and I are one, or practicing reading that, if they subconsciously saw it, people healed from addictions, even symptoms of schizophrenia. Mommy and I are one. That's how incredibly powerful the psyche responds to mommy, to mother, to mammy, mami wata, mammy, mama, mai, ma. I mean, there's so many names for her. As a matter of fact, me is the name of a goddess. Me, M-E, is the name of a Babylonian goddess, which I found in this book. Okay, so to continue. Past societies dreaded even a temporary loss of the mother image. There, Apuleius spoke of the period when the goddess departed from the world for her season of self-renewal. Quote unquote, quote, there has been no pleasure, no joy, no merriment anywhere, but all things lie in rude, unkept neglect. Wedlock and true friendships and parents' love for their children have vanished from the earth. There is one vast disorder, one hateful loathing, and foul disregard of all bonds of love. It looks like without Great Mother, without the mother love. When the goddess permanently disappeared from theological imagery, the sense of alienation became universal. Okay, I'm going to finish this video up. We're still not completely finished with the motherhood chapter. There's still about 4 pages left. But I wanted to share this as kind of like the ending of this video because it's pretty cool. Okay, so this is This is G.R. Taylor's classification of the matrist and patrist societies. So patrist societies showed guilt, negativism, and fear in the latter, as opposed to a more confident outlook in the former, which is the matriarchal societies, were typified by 1. Permissive attitude towards schmecks. Okay. Freeness for women. That's 2. 3. High feminine status. 4. Welfare more valued than chastity. 5. Democratic political principles. 6. Progressive views. 7. Spontaneity. Exhibition. 8. Smecks differences minimized. 9. Hedonism, pleasure welcomed. Hedonism, anyhow. We're not going to make that a bad thing. 10. Mother worship. And then in patrist societies, we don't have to go in it. We know what that looks like. Okay. Worshippers of the Great Mother celebrated rites of love, including Shmashmon love, which was often taken as a symbol for all loves expressed in gestures and acts similar to those of mother-child behavior, cuddling, and so on. Conversely, voiders of the, we're not going to go into that. There's a lot of fear around the male deity. So we're just going to end one more time. Worshippers of the Great Mother celebrated rites of love. Okay. So then we'll go on to the next page, and this goes, we'll find it. And even if we don't find it, that's okay, because there's so many gems in this. So many gems. All right, so that's for today. I'm going to put another little, wait, where's my little bookmark to note where we're at. Here we go. This will just have to work for now. In Motherhood, all right, that's easy to remember, the page I'm on. And we'll pick up this part. Oh, see, it leads to a whole nother thing. Okay. I love this book. I'm so glad to have learned about it and decided to pick it, because it is affirming, because there's a lot of things that have come up in my own personal life, or just in thinking about things, or questions that I feel Great Mother and the planet gave answers to. And then there's this affirmation here. It's great for that. So if you have it, you can pick it up. If you don't have it, I will be, sharing bits and pieces more, but I really wanted to finish the motherhood part. So we'll finish that in the next video. Okay. Any little messages? I did get a message yesterday, but I didn't write it down. I can't remember what it was. That's okay. Take care, and until next time. Until next time.